So you're out there living your ordinary everyday life, right? Cup of joe in the morning, then heading off to the office to get a little work done. Lunchtime rolls around and you got your Jersey Mikes going on. Everything's golden, right? But then you get the news. You're being transferred with work, and you're not just moving, you're moving out of state. You're shocked, your heart is racing, and really you've got just one thing on your mind. Will they have a Jersey Mikes there? No, that's not it. Back it up and try again. You're shocked, your heart is racing, and really you've got just one thing on your mind. How will I buy a home in another state? Well, I'm glad you asked, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. 5 steps to buying a home in another state. Oh, and stick around to the end, because we're going to talk about a bonus tip that's going to keep you covered if you don't close on your new home on time and you're looking at being homeless. Well, hello, this is Wendy Pinnell, and before you start packing up your things and booking your one-way flight to Dallas, there are 5 important things you need to know about buying a home in a different state. Starting out with step number 1, figure out your budget. Okay, now obviously you don't want to stretch yourself too thin, because if you get stuck with an unaffordable mortgage payment, it'll be really tough to make ends meet. So take a hard look at how much house you can actually afford and then go forward from there. Now, once you've figured out that part of it, you also need to take a closer look at the cost of living in Dallas, okay? Like, you may have just found out you'll be making an extra $2,000 a month, and you're all like, ooh, Dallas, here we come, baby. But what if the Dallas cost of living is a lot higher than where you're at right now? I mean, you might be coming from a state like Mississippi or Oklahoma, okay? Those states have a much lower cost of living. Or maybe you're moving from New York or California, in which case you're gonna be pleasantly surprised at the Dallas cost of living. So you need to look into things like home prices, groceries, transportation costs, utilities, okay? All of those are gonna give you an insight into just how much living in Dallas is gonna set you back every month, all right? Now, second thing you need to do is figure out your buying power. Okay, there are several things that come into play here. To make sure you have the best idea of what you can qualify for in a mortgage, you need to start the pre-approval process with a local lender, okay? But listen, read my lips here. When it comes to buying a home, you have the final say on your budget, okay? Not the lender. Now think back a minute ago when we were planning your budget, and stick to that amount for your house payment, okay? You know your expenses better than your lender will. Now, another thing to keep in mind here is before qualifying for a loan, your lender's gonna need you to verify your employment, okay? So that could be pretty simple, right? It could just be like a verification of employment from your relocating company. But if you're starting fresh here in Dallas, it's a new job and everything, it could take a little more paperwork. Okay, so either way, you need to make sure that this information is all squared away, because your lender's gonna need it, all right? Okay, moving on to step number 3. Factor in your moving and travel expenses, okay? The moving and traveling part of this whole adventure is gonna be expensive, all right? You wanna make sure you think through all the costs that are associated with it, okay? Now keep in mind, you just told your lender, right, in step 2, how much you're gonna put down on a new home. But what if moving expenses cost you way more than you expect? I mean, what are you gonna do if you're under contract to buy a home and now you don't have enough money for the down payment? Right? Are you gonna put those extra expenses like on a credit card? Because now you're risking messing up your debt to income ratio or your credit score, right? No, just picture it this way. When you're in the middle of buying a home, your finances are under a microscope, okay? You need to make sure of your budget. All right, so what kinds of things do you need to budget for? Well, obviously like plane tickets, travel expenses, that sort of thing, but also, packing materials, professional movers, storage containers to rent, and potentially even temporary lodging, okay? This is gonna add up quicker than you expect, so do yourself a solid, figure these numbers out now, and then when you've added them all together, throw in an extra 10% moving wild card, okay? All right, moving on to step number 4. This is where it starts to get fun, or maybe overwhelming, or maybe exhausting. Now let's just stick with fun. Step number 4 is when you begin researching suburbs and neighborhoods. Now don't get too hung up on researching neighborhoods at first, okay? I'm talking about, you start Googling, best neighborhoods in Richardson, for example. Okay, Dallas has a chronic supply shortage, all right? So if you get that specific with neighborhoods, you're probably not gonna find enough selection. So instead, start by adding filters one at a time into your home search, all right? So price is often the most restrictive, okay? So you can probably start there. If you're in the, 300 to 400,000 range, you're gonna find that filter alone is gonna really narrow down your options, okay? In an upper price range, you may still have, plenty of areas to consider. Secondly, your second most restrictive filter is probably gonna be what you're willing to accept for a commute. And if you already had a list running that didn't include commute, you need to add it pronto because Dallas traffic is a beast. So you've got price and commute time. Now start thinking about what season of life you're in, okay? Are you wanting a vibrant single scene? Or are you raising a family? In which case school ratings may be extremely important to you. Or it could be that you're hitting your retirement years, right? In which case you might want very specific types of communities. Okay, so by the time you've added in those three filters, you've probably managed to narrow down your search fairly well. There are still other considerations to factor in though, okay? So think big picture, community and neighborhood, okay? You wanna evaluate things like crime, walkability of the area, population density, okay? How crowded is this area? And then when you're thinking specifically like to the house, do you prefer new construction, or existing homes? Do you want to be nestled inside a neighborhood, or would you rather have, acreage and a more rural lifestyle? This really is where it starts to get fun, okay? And the good news is, in the midst of all this search, Dallas has any and all of those things. Woo-hoo! Moving on to step number 5, when it comes to buying a new home, you need to read the fine print, okay? Here in Texas, we use the standard TREC promulgated contract form, and it's gonna outline exactly what is or isn't included with a home purchase. But there's a very real chance here that this is completely different than what's included with a home purchase where you're moving from, okay? So think about things like ovens, microwaves, refrigerators, window coverings, pool equipment. You need to know what's included. Now, it gets even stickier when you get into new construction, okay? Every builder has their own contract and their own terms and their own conditions on what they will and won't provide in the house, right? So let's just say you close on your new home and you find out window blinds weren't included, right? So everyone can see inside your bedroom and you're not okay with that. You're back to an expense you didn't plan for. Be sure to do your due diligence here and make sure you know exactly what's included in the price of your new home before signing any contract. Keep in mind, as overwhelming as this all may sound, it's exactly what we're here for. If you have a move in your future, reach out to us, check out our Let's Find Home questionnaire, and let's get acquainted. Now, I want to play worst case scenario with you for a minute, okay? Suppose you found a home, you've gotten it under contract, and you're headed to Dallas. Everything seems to be going smoothly, but then you find out the closing has been delayed at the last minute. Well, here's your bonus tip. 4 things you can do if you find yourself unexpectedly homeless in Dallas, okay? You ready? Number 1, ask the seller for a buyer's lease back. This is when the seller allows you to move in early. Number 2, rent a motorhome and stay at one of our gazillion state parks. Number 3, locate an extended stay hotel, okay? You can find these in nearly every suburb and often they're very pet friendly. And number 4, another option, rent an Airbnb. Now, if you factored in that extra 10% for moving costs that I told you about, you're gonna be okay, all right? Maybe you'll have some family time under the stars while waiting for life in Dallas to get started. But okay, I hear you. More things can go wrong than just a delayed closing, and you don't want a part of any of them. If that's you, then you're definitely gonna wanna check out this video where we discuss the 6 mistakes you want to avoid when moving to Dallas. In the meantime, Wendy out.